This is Meredith Blake. This presentation is for History of Graphic Design. My designer was Will Burton. He was an information designer. He was born in Germany in 1908, and when he was a teenager he studied typography, and then he studied graphic and industrial design in Germany, and he also studied typesetting with Dr. Philippe Knoll, and he also helped work on exhibitions, exhibitions. And in 1927 he opened up his own design studio in Cologne, Germany, and he created booklets, posters, type books, displays, advertising, stuff like that. And he had his own studio all the way up until 1938, and he met a woman named Hildy, and she was an art student, and they got married, and she kind of helped him at his graphic design studio. And then the Nazi Party took over, and they wanted somebody like Burton to help with their propaganda design, and Burton was really against that. He didn't want to work for the Nazis. His wife was Jewish, but the Nazis kept insisting, but he kept making up excuses like he was too busy with other work. Eventually him and his wife were able to flee to America, because his wife's, I think, like cousin lived in America, and they secured a visa through him. So they were able to flee to America and escape the Nazis. After arriving in the United States, they located in New York City, and they opened up a freelance business. Then when the war, World War II kicked off and the United States got involved, he was drafted into the war. And there he was asked to work for the Office of Strategic Services, and he created these manuals and pamphlets, like this one, Position Firing. It's a gunnery manual. Here's an inside view of it. And then after the war was over, he went to work for Fortune magazine as an art director. And after that, he went on to work for a bunch of other companies, like the Upjohn Company, a pharmaceutical company, and also Kodak and some other government clients, and he was very successful. And I'll go into some of his work now. So like I just mentioned, he worked for the United States Army during the war, doing like pieces like this, like these gunnery manuals. Then 1945 to 1945 he worked for Fortune magazine. He was the art director. This is a cover of one of the magazines. Here's another cover. This is a spread from Fortune on advertising in America. It's called the American Bazaar. And this is one spread. And here's another. And here's a third one. And as you can see, it's kind of busy, like a bazaar kind of. That's what I kind of saw. So it's kind of interesting how he set it up like that. And it's about advertising. So it looks like it goes into some of the history of advertising in America. It's just really nice, interesting layouts. And even though it is really busy, I think it all like works really well. Then from 1949 through 1971, he did freelance work for the Upjohn Company as an art director. They were a pharmaceutical, medical, scientific company. They also had a magazine called Scope magazine, which was like kind of like a scientific magazine, and so he was the art director for that. These are like some posters that he did for Upjohn. You can probably already start to see like kind of his style. It's pretty like obvious, I think at least. This is a cover he did for Scope. This is another cover. I guess this issue was about color, I think it says. Here's a spread he did for Scope. His typography always looks really beautiful, I think. Here's another spread for Scope that I thought was really nice. So, in addition to all this print work, one of the main things that he did was exhibition design. Even more so maybe than his print. He was famous for these exhibitions he did with Upjohn Company. There was the brain, the cell, the chromosome, and I think one was called Atoms in Action. So they're all like science related or medical related. And he designed these big kind of like 3D visual experiences for people to experience. This is a picture of like people sitting in front of the brain exhibit. So you can tell it's pretty big. The people are down at the bottom. This is the cell exhibit. It's similar to the brain one before. There's a lady standing inside, so they were really like kind of like immersive experiences, and they were made to take like concepts that might be like complex, and he kind of like designed it in a way for like the everyday layman would be able to understand it and kind of educate themselves. So like I said, he worked for some government clients too, like the United States Information Agency. This was a pretty famous exhibit he did called Kalamazoo and How It Grew. And it was kind of like about the town of Kalamazoo, and I think like more broader sense it was about like how America grew like after World War II. So these exhibits I think were displayed in like Europe and stuff. He worked for Kodak, and he designed this kind of like pavilion for them for the World's Fair in 1965. And it has like a 80-foot high photo tower. Pretty cool stuff. But he's also doing like kind of like architecture almost here, so he had a pretty expansive design portfolio. His legacy, I'd say he's probably considered one of the greatest information designers of the 20th century. He won numerous awards. He did many different styles, posters, books, 3D exhibition, architecture. He kind of transcended the commercial art model that like most designers were doing in the 50s and 60s. He like synthesized design thinking with education and technology. And he focused on the relationship between spatial forms and their functions, which I can really relate to, and really enjoyed looking at his work. I think it'll definitely help me with my design work in the future. And then so for my design object, I did a trifold information pamphlet that explains what atherosclerosis is and how it can lead to death. So one of my past career, I was a forensic investigator at the medical examiner's office, and we had to explain like the cause of death to like grieving families who were like really upset, and sometimes they had different levels of education, and it could be like a hard thing to try to explain that to them. So I thought having like these pamphlets that like explained like the most sudden causes of death, like atherosclerosis, which leads to heart attacks and strokes. It's like the #1 leading cause of death in the U.S. I thought it would be like helpful to have that to help explain it. So this is like the PDF of the front and the back on the inset of the trifold. I tried to keep it kind of like Who style, but like an updated version of it. So here it is printed out. That's the back and the inset. This is the inside. It's like a diagram of the human body, and then it shows like the different related diseases of atherosclerosis, like carotid artery disease, coronary artery disease, chronic kidney disease, and peripheral artery disease. And it kind of like points it out on the on the diagram. And then on the left side, it's just like a diagram of like blocked blood vessels, which is like, and it kind of like explains like what atherosclerosis is and what it looks like. These are like up close detail shots. And that's it. Thank you.